Imagine waking up to a different kind of headline. The stock market is falling. Businesses are becoming cautious. Companies are slowing hiring. People are talking about layoffs, inflation, and uncertainty. Then you hear a word that seems to appear everywhere: recession. But what does a recession actually mean? Is it simply when the economy gets worse? Is it when the stock market crashes? Or is it something much bigger? To understand money, investing, jobs, and the economy, you need to understand what happens when an economy enters a recession. So what is a recession? In simple terms, a recession is a significant and widespread decline in economic activity. It affects more than just one company or one industry. It can affect consumer spending, business investment, employment, income, industrial production, and overall economic output. Think of the economy like a giant machine. Millions of people work, earn money, spend money, borrow money, invest, and produce goods and services. When those activities begin slowing down across the economy, the machine starts losing momentum. That broad slowdown is what we call a recession. You may have heard a famous rule: 2 consecutive quarters of falling GDP equals a recession. This is a popular shortcut, but the real picture is more complicated. Economists look at several indicators to understand whether the economy is actually contracting. They examine employment, income, consumer spending, industrial production, and overall economic activity. In the United States, the National Bureau of Economic Research, known as the NBER, considers the broader economic picture when identifying recessions. So a recession is not determined by one number alone. It is about the behavior of the economy as a whole. But how does a recession actually begin? There is rarely one single cause. Sometimes consumers suddenly become nervous and reduce spending. Sometimes businesses expect weaker demand and stop investing. Sometimes interest rates become too high for borrowers. A financial crisis can restrict access to credit. A major supply shock can make production more expensive. And sometimes several problems happen at the same time. The important thing is that the economy is deeply connected. When one part weakens, another part can feel the pressure. This is where consumer spending becomes extremely important. Consumer spending is one of the largest engines of the American economy. When people feel confident, they buy homes, cars, clothing, food, electronics, entertainment, and services. Businesses see stronger demand and respond by hiring workers and expanding. But when people become afraid of losing their jobs, they often become more cautious. They delay major purchases. They eat out less. They save more. One family doing this may not matter much, but millions of families doing the same thing can dramatically slow the economy. Businesses feel the slowdown next. Imagine a restaurant that suddenly has fewer customers. A factory receives fewer orders. A technology company sees demand decline. At first, businesses may simply reduce overtime. Then they may freeze hiring. If the slowdown continues, they may reduce investment, close locations, or lay off workers. This creates a powerful chain reaction. Fewer workers means less income. Less income means less spending. Less spending means weaker sales for other businesses. Suddenly, a problem that started in one part of the economy begins spreading everywhere. And then comes one of the most painful consequences: unemployment. When businesses can no longer justify keeping as many workers, layoffs may begin. For the person who loses a job, the recession suddenly becomes very real. A mortgage payment does not disappear. Rent still has to be paid. Food still needs to be purchased. Debt still exists. And when thousands or millions of people face the same situation, consumer spending can fall even further. That is why employment is one of the most important economic indicators to watch. Interest rates can make the situation even more complicated. When central banks raise interest rates, borrowing becomes more expensive. Mortgages become harder to afford. Businesses may delay expansion. Consumers may reduce borrowing. The goal of higher rates is often to slow demand and control inflation. But there is a delicate balance. If rates remain high for too long, economic activity can weaken significantly. Policymakers are constantly trying to answer one difficult question: how much can we slow the economy without breaking it?
What about the stock market? This is where many people become confused. A recession does not automatically mean that every stock will crash. The stock market is forward-looking. Investors are constantly trying to predict what the economy and corporate profits will look like in the future. That means stocks can fall before a recession officially begins. but they can also recover before the economy feels healthy again. The stock market and the real economy are connected, but they are not the same thing. A recession is also very different from a depression. A recession can be serious, but a depression is much deeper and more prolonged. The Great Depression of the 1930s is the most famous example. Millions of people lost jobs, businesses failed, banks collapsed, and economic activity contracted dramatically. Modern economies have financial institutions, central banks, social programs, and policy tools that can help reduce the risk of another event on that scale. But severe recessions can still cause enormous damage.
So, how long does a recession last? There is no universal answer. Some recessions are relatively short. Others can last much longer. Everything depends on the cause of the downturn and how quickly confidence returns. If consumers begin spending again, businesses start investing, banks lend more freely, and employment stabilizes, recovery can accelerate. This is why economists watch the economy from many different angles. They are not simply asking, is the economy bad? They are asking, is the economy getting better or getting worse? Now comes the question that matters most to ordinary people. What should you do during a recession? You cannot control the economy, but you can control your financial behavior. Know how much money you earn and spend. Build an emergency fund when possible. Avoid unnecessary high-interest debt. Protect your income by improving valuable skills. And most importantly, do not let fear make every financial decision for you. A recession can be uncomfortable, but preparation can make it much easier to survive. And here is the surprising part. Recessions can create opportunities. During difficult economic periods, asset prices can fall. Some businesses become more efficient. New companies can emerge. Workers can learn new skills and move into growing industries. Investors with patience and strong financial foundations may find attractive opportunities. But this does not mean every falling asset is a bargain. The lesson is not to buy everything when prices fall. The lesson is to stay prepared enough to recognize opportunities when they appear.
The biggest lesson is simple. Economies move in cycles. Periods of rapid growth are followed by slowdowns. Slowdowns can become recessions. Recessions eventually lead to recovery. The exact timing is impossible to predict perfectly, but understanding the cycle can change how you react. Instead of panicking when everyone else is afraid, you can focus on your finances. Instead of becoming overconfident when everything is going up, you can remember that economic cycles always change. So what is an economic recession? It is not simply a bad stock market day. It is not just one company losing money. And it is not something that can be understood through a single economic number. A recession is a broad decline in economic activity that can affect jobs, income, spending, businesses, credit, investments, and confidence. It can be painful. It can be frightening. But it is also part of the economic cycle. The better you understand the cycle, the better prepared you can be for whatever comes next.